And what?
Hi, everyone. This is real estate coach Craig Proctor. Welcome to the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show with my special guest, longtime member, one of our top coaches from Calgary, Alberta, Mr. Rick Brash. Rick, how are you doing today?
I'm well, Craig. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, Rick, we have a long, illustrious past together, and I appreciate so much your loyalty over the years. You are one of our top coaches. You've been in the Craig Proctor system for decades. Maybe talk a little bit about how you started with us and what that journey's been like.
Oh, sure. Hey, well, I'm probably fairly typical. I got a real estate license way back when and thought that this was going to be my ticket to comfort and freedom and everything else, and quickly discovered that the business was not as easy as it was presented. I remember I went to a career night with a franchise, and they said, if you apply yourself and put in some effort and do these things, you'll have a great life. You'll be a pillar of the community, and you'll make, of course, a really great living. Well, the reality was I found the business very difficult. I had a unique situation. I was a single dad at the time, as you know, and I didn't have as much time to put into the business as I would have liked. So I struggled with it. I found real estate in the beginning to be a fairly difficult enterprise. It was a career change for me. But it wasn't until I realized that there was a better way and went looking for someone who could show me a better way. I didn't have any increase in my life. For my life didn't get better. I found you. Late 1989, I found you. Or no, pardon me, late 1999, I found you. And I found your website, and I've told this story before. One of your very first coaching websites, the homepage went on and on and on and on. You got us to read and read and read and read. And then at the very bottom, we clicked to get a report from you about how to make your real estate business better. And I read that entire website that you put up. I clicked it, and from there, I became enamored with your situation, enamored with your program. The thing I liked at the time that really was appealing to me, Craig, was you were a working agent with Remax. You were selling in the neighborhood of 500 or 600 houses every year, and you lived in a town of 50,000 people. And you were actually quite willing to tell people that because you were proud of it. And I was amazed by that because I'm in Calgary. At the time, the population was about 1 million, and I couldn't get past about a dozen house sales a year. Well, here you are in a tiny little place in Ontario, pounding out 600 deals. You've got this thing called a team, and it's total amazement for me. Everything you said, everything you shared, the methods, the technology, the systems, it all fit Rick Brash's uneducated but logical thinking brain. You created a system that had a predictable result in everything you did in your business. And unlike other people who were never in the business, you said, watch my machine run. Watch how I do it. Look at what I do. Every week you're sending me out a FedEx box full of stuff, your ads, your conversations, your results. And that's how it started for me. So I became really enamored with this idea of marketing. This marketing component in the business became what I lived for. You often referred to me as a bit of a mad scientist when it came to marketing. And I got really good at generating leads, or as I call it sometimes, creating opportunity. And you also taught me something really important, that most real estate businesses, they move along because the real estate agent has a book. He's able to do, on a fairly consistent basis, referrals, sphere of influence business, et cetera, et cetera. You said, that's great, got to do that. But if you look at any successful business in your neighborhood, you're going to find that everybody that's really successful has a strategy to create new business. And you said it best, you got to learn to do business with strangers. And that stuck with me because if my marketing isn't creating opportunity from strangers, then the marketing isn't good enough. And you kind of took me under your wing, and I know I drove you crazy, but you taught me how to get really good at generating leads, creating opportunity, and converting those leads into realtor commission dollars, and changed my life. And a lot of people say that about things, but it really did. I mean, never had success. I never got to work with someone who had the level of success that you did. So you were a great mentor, Craig, not just for me, for lots of people, because you showed us. You absolutely showed us and gave us the method for a better way to be a realtor. You made my life better. You made my business easier, and you enabled me to make a really, really good living that's afforded me a great life now. And I'm forever grateful for that.
And as a coach, that's all you can ever ask for. It's it's the journey in real estate, and being all that you can, and then sharing with other real estate agents what I was able to do in my own business. It's been so much fun over the years, and I did not want to interrupt anything you were saying here, because you did such a great job of sincerely articulating what's happened in your life. And what happened to you is not unique. You've met over the years hundreds, really thousands of other
Yeah.
agents that came from very difficult spots to now being the most successful, or one of the most successful realtors in their respective marketplaces. Talk a little bit about the culture inside of Craig Proctor, the people you've met, and the fact that it's not just Craig Proctor, it's thousands of like-minded agents that you've been able to share ideas with, and you've coached really hundreds or thousands of them
Yeah.
over the years as one of my one-on-one coaches. Talk about how gratifying that's been to you, to be able to pass on your success to people that at one point were struggling and now are superstars.
Yeah, it's interesting. A few years ago, when you became sort of statistically aware of my success, you called me one day and you said, "Hey, Rick, because of what's happened in your life, how would you feel about taking some time during the week and helping a few of our members implement and execute the way you were able to?" And I thought about it, and I thought, why not? It's a really gratifying thing, like you said, to help people gain the success. And at that time, you started to use me a little bit in your events, and I got a little bit more involved with your coaching team. And you're right. So over the years now, it's been about 20 years. I've had that privilege of working with people who, like me, just wanted this business to work for them. And I look at some of the statistics in both Canada and the US, and the statistics for failure for a new realtor are fairly prominent. I mean, in the Canadian market, they say if you come in the business, don't expect a paycheck until about 9 months up the road. Well, I can't imagine how people survive with that being a statistic. But when we come to work and we execute your system, we're creating opportunity for ourselves as realtors in the first week of our relationship with you. And that's a focus that I try and take on with a member who's asked for help is let me give you an understanding of how this system's going to work. You're going to spend time with Craig now every single week, numerous trainings every week, but let's you and I work on the nitty gritty. Let's you and I get into the actual workings of what's going to really make things get better in your world, in your market, with the experience in real estate that you have. So now I get to go to work every morning, and I work with these members who just want to succeed. Most people don't come to us with an over-the-top ego or with an arrogant attitude. No, they come willing to learn. I call it, they come with humility. The definition of humility is somebody is willing to be taught. I was willing to be taught. I'm willing to share the system and how it worked for me and other people. And you're there every single week, and we see these people start to make a stride. Next thing you know, they've got a dozen leads coming in over a week. Then it's 2 dozen. Then we get people up to 100 leads a month. We're teaching them how to convert. We're teaching them how to present. We're teaching them how to think like a prospect. We're teaching them what to say in a presentation. Presentation, man, nobody teaches presentations to a buyer or to a seller, Craig, the way we do. Nobody gives their students a listing presentation and a buyer presentation. that deals with that part of the business the way you do. And I'll tell you, it's the most gratifying thing to see people's lives change in a short period of time because they're willing to listen to your philosophy. It's fantastic.
Now, some of the real estate agents that come to us have already had coaching from competitors. I guess we'll call them competitors, but we really
Yeah.
don't see ourselves as competitors because what we do, what we teach, and how we teach it is quite different. Explain to everybody, because you've been a longtime Craig Proctor coach, what is different about what we teach, what we coach, the system that this is based on versus what you've heard from our students that have come from other coaching programs?
Well, look, I make it a professional habit not to badmouth other coaches and other trainers. But there's some commonalities that come my way when somebody says they've been in this program or that program, or they're just finishing this off. The commonalities are the people they're working with are not people from the industry. The trainer that they're working with and paying big money to has either not sold a house in 25 years or has never sold a house. The person that's coaching them hasn't been in a tough listing presentation in years. That's what I hear. People that come into your organization are being trained by people who succeeded with your system in any type of market. Hey, I've had the privilege, Craig, in your company of working with agents in 9 countries around the world. Most recently, I worked with a really great fellow in Portugal, and we saw him go from absolutely hardly making a living, not even being able to pay his rent, to becoming the #1 agent in his office in Portugal. And by the way, in Portugal, no MLS, no organized buyer representation, nothing at all like we're used to here in North America. And yet he took the training and he absolutely thrived with it in his office over there. The culture is we all work together, we all share, we all come together numerous times of the year, not to look down our noses at other people, but to rub shoulders and to share and to be one body of people who've had the success that you've engineered for us. Hey, we sit next to people in our meetings who are making $4, $5, $6 million a year, and you'll see that person sitting having a coffee and having lunch with someone who's been licensed for 3 months. That's the culture that you created that I think has had such a huge impact on people in your organization. So the thing that you created, Craig, was this sharing culture where everybody works together so that everybody can succeed.
Yeah, that's one of the things, Rick, that you and I hear over and over again. If a new member to us, a realtor, comes over from another coaching company, or they've never had a coach, the sharing, they say, is unbelievable. Like, you become friends, and the openness and the abundance and nobody holding anything back, everybody just sharing and helping
Yeah.
each other is quite unique.
You know, as an example, sorry to interrupt you, Craig. As an example, you just had a 1-day event in Toronto 2 weeks ago. I was there. And one of the top producers there in Ontario, a fellow named Gary Overbeek, who I believe has been on the podcast with you.
Yes.
He literally climbed on the stage in front of 400 people. He put his listing presentation on the screen, and slide by slide by slide, he went through that, and he showed everybody in the room how to do a listing presentation his way that you taught him. Now, I've been to a lot of organized real estate events over the year representing you and the company. I've never seen anything like that done as we did in Toronto 2 weeks ago. But that's the culture. That's the culture. We're willing to share, we're willing to support one another, and we're willing to make sure that nobody gets left behind. And that's one of the best things about your company that's ever been done.
Let's talk about what the Craig Proctor system is and what the Craig Proctor system is not. We'll start with what it is not, what we don't teach, because it makes it easier for people to understand what it is. So in Craig Proctor world, we don't teach you cold calling, door knocking, chasing expireds, for sale by owners, doing floor time, all the things that we're normally taught in real estate, we do not teach you to do that. In fact, we encourage you to push back as far as you possibly can, to push back hard on industry standards and norms.
Yeah.
And we understand that when you get into real estate, the natural mistake, I guess we'll call it a mistake, is we get into the business and we look around at what all the other agents are doing, and we assume it is the way to do it. Then when you understand that most agents are struggling and not doing well at all, you got to be very careful who you're emulating. So we're not about all the traditional things that your brokers told you to do, that you see other agents doing. Instead, we teach you how to make really, really powerful offers to buyers and sellers. And by an offer, we're not talking about an offer, purchase, and sale. We're talking about in your advertising and the words that come out of your mouth, offering buyers and sellers things that they really, really want. Now, these things that they really, really want cannot be things that the buyers and sellers can get on their own. Because if the buyers and sellers can go online, they can do a Google search. If you're offering what they can find by themselves, naturally they're going to do that. We have to offer something really, really big to get buyers and sellers to contact us. So that's what we teach you. Well, what are these offers and how can you make these offers? So let's just agree that that makes sense, right? Now, you might not know the offers at this point, and you might not know how to do it, but let's just accept that it's very difficult if you're cold calling, you're door knocking, if you're buying Zillow leads, if you're buying leads from whatever source. It's very difficult because the prospects are not answering the phone hardly at all, right? I don't want to speak in absolutes and say that nobody answers the phone, but you folks that are watching, you know, you're a real estate agent and you don't even like it when someone calls you. The first thing we do is we check the caller ID, and many times we'll let it go to voicemail. You also know that if you're lucky enough to get a prospect on the line, and you say, you know, I'm calling because, you know, I've got your information. In other words, they haven't called you. You're initiating this. You bought their lead. It's scraped information. This is not something the prospects agreed to. And frankly, wouldn't even know if the prospect's motivated or even wants to move. Just because you go look at a house at Zillow doesn't necessarily make you a great lead, right?
Right.
But that's the game many agents play. So I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say that if you called 100 Zillow leads, you might get 3 or 4 on the phone, and usually they push you away. Okay, they say I'm not interested, or I don't know why you're calling me, but it's definitely an uphill battle, right? You're met with rejection. Clearly, the positioning is poor because you're chasing them. They didn't contact you. Okay, you bought scraped information, you bought leads, and you're calling them, and that's why you're watching this right now, because you're looking for a better method. So imagine if the opposite was true. Instead of you buying leads and basically cold calling people, imagine if you had these Craig Proctor offers, these wonderful things that you could say and that you could advertise, and it worked so well that you had an overflow of buyers and sellers contacting you. Now, what do we mean by an overflow? We mean too many for you to handle. And you might say, well, why the hell would I want too many? Because as we know, some buyers are better than others. Some sellers are better than other sellers. So if you had more buyers and sellers coming at you every week than you could possibly work with, you could raise the bar. You could raise your standards, and you could decide, you know, hey, since I can't work with them all, it makes sense that I'm going to spend my time with the most motivated, the most sincere, the most ready to act buyers and sellers. Now, some of the buyers and sellers you speak to, remember, they're calling you. So you are now positioned as a welcome guest versus being positioned as an annoying pest. How many of you like that? Being a welcome guest instead of being poorly positioned as an annoying pest. So number one, we get the buyers and sellers to chase us, to call us, right? You're not calling 100 people to talk to one person. They're all calling you. Now, you can still blow it. Let's agree that if buyers and sellers call you, you can still mess up the call and end up with nothing. So we teach you, well, when they call you, when they request your information, what do you do? What do you say? Not all the buyers and sellers that call you will be ready today, It'd be a great world, Rick, eh? If every buyer or seller we spoke to said, "Hey, I'm ready to list my house. Come on over and list my house today," or "I'm ready to buy a home today." So we have to have a proper follow-up and conversion system. So number one, the Craig Proctor system is a bunch of these little systems that are all hooked together. So we've got the lead generation system. That's how they call us. Then we've got the conversion system. What do we do and say and send out to the buyers and sellers that do call us? And then when that all works, guess what happens? You've got listing presentations and you got buyer presentations. Now, would you agree that if you had more listing presentations every week, you'd probably get better at it, right? Like Rick, if you went golfing 3 times a week, you'd be a better golfer.
Better than I am now.
Right. So, and you're actually learning from people that know how to play golf, to use that analogy, right? Like our coaches, Rick Brash has been in real estate now for 20 years. We're not 24 years. We're not practicing
34.
on you. We're 34. Okay. We're not hiring people off the street and we're saying, "Hey, we're hiring coaches. Hey, Rick, we'd like you to talk about how to sell real estate." If you think of how crazy this is, that the fact in this industry, and you guys know the names, and if you don't do research on who your coach is, like, shame on you, right? Like, don't give people money on how to teach you how to do something that they've never done before. That's ridiculous, right? Why don't we do a little bit of research and make sure that whoever your coach is actually has a track record of being successful at what they're teaching you to do? I mean, it would be like Rick and I deciding tomorrow, well, Rick and I, we're going to go onto social media tomorrow and we're going to proclaim that we're coaches to heart surgeons. Yep, we're just going to, we'll probably rent a Ferrari, stand in front of a beautiful home. Rick, we would need to wear white jackets because that's what surgeons do. And maybe a stethoscope. Yeah, a stethoscope. Yep. And then, that's how ridiculous this is. Now, Rick and I have never been medical doctors. We've never performed heart surgery. We would have no credibility in actually teaching doctors or heart surgeons how to be better at what they do. Okay, now, I mean, that's a bit of a ridiculous example, but that is what's happening in real estate. So the first recommendation, whether it's me, Craig Proctor, or somebody else, make sure you get a coach. A coach will help you shorten the learning curve. Why the hell would you want to reinvent all of this? You take somebody that's been in the business for 30 years, like Rick and I, and we've broken down. We've heard about all the mistakes. We can save you all kinds of time. Most importantly, we can plug an effective system right into your business. Here's your lead generation system. Go do it. Here's the conversion system. Implement this. This is the best way to list a house. So Gary Overbeek, who Rick was talking about a few minutes ago at our Toronto conference, the game we played is I said, "Hey, Gary, you're the top agent in your marketplace. You list hundreds of houses. I want you to go give your listing presentation on stage, and the hundreds of us in the audience, we're going to pretend that we're the sellers." So the audience is going to pretend they're the sellers, and Gary, you're going to play yourself the agent, and you're going to try to list our house. And that listing presentation system is the same system that I would use, that Rick would use. There is a best practice, right? Now, how did I figure out the best listing presentation? Well, I did 10,000 listing presentations. And in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. And I tweaked it and I watched the facial expressions of the sellers. And I realized that some of the words that came out of my mouth were completely ineffective, didn't matter. Actually, some of the stuff I said probably made things worse for me. And over the years, I invented, right? The words that came out of my mouth became better. And as I would watch the facial expressions, I realized when I say these certain things, it's well received by the seller. So then it was just a matter of what are the best things to say to the seller to get the result that you want, which the result is you want them to choose you versus all the other agents. You want to build credibility and authority. So they not only want to choose you, but they'll listen to you when it comes to your advice on pricing their home, and they'll pay you a higher fee. So we have that system. You don't have to figure it out. We give it to you on a silver platter. With buyers in the US and soon to be in Canada, you have to negotiate your own fee with buyers. So you need a great presentation. You know, it used to be, you could say to a buyer, "Hey, I do all these things and my services are free." Well, how good did your presentation have to be to convince the buyer to pay you nothing? Not very good. However, Last year, Rick, you saw the stats, 49% of the real estate agents in the United States sold one house or zero homes. And that's in a world where realtors could say to the buyer, my services are free.
Yep.
So when all that works, you've got a
And it's a
lead
different, and it's a different world now for our friends in the US.
A very different world since these rule changes on August 17th. Again, soon to be coming to Canada. If you don't know how to negotiate your fee, guess what fee you're going to get? Zero fee from your buyer. So we coach you up, and we are proud to stay years and years ahead of what's happening in the industry. That's another thing our members say to us all the time. It's like when I'm part of Craig Proctor, I feel like I'm finding out like 5 years before everybody else what's going to happen in the industry. Okay, so what have we talked about? We talked
I think
about
that's I'm just going to jump in here, Craig. I think that point bears a bit of a conversation, and from experience, I remember when I first started to work with you back in, I think I started with you in 2000. And back in that time, the year 2000, you said to me, you know, Brash, it would be a really good idea if before you show houses to a buyer, you sit them down and get them signed to a buyer's agreement. And I'm pretty typical. It's like, well, no one in my market has ever done that before. But you laid out a fairly logical reason for doing this. And as I was always tried to be a good student, I learned how to get a buyer's agreement signed. So you come along
now,
a
how
little
many
bit
years
later.
how many years ago was that, Rick?
So I started with you in late 1999.
All right, so we're talking about Rick Brash creating rules of engagement where buyers had to meet with Rick and sign a buyer agency agreement with Rick, and Rick negotiating what he's going to get paid. We're talking about this a long, long time before it actually was mandatory,
Yeah.
right?
I didn't discuss remuneration at first. My mission was to get a signature on the paper. So then a little bit of time goes on, and I gain some working comfort with that idea to the point where if you don't sign, you don't get me. And you said to me, Rick, that's one of the best things you could do for your business. So a bit of time goes on, and you said to me on a coaching call one day, you said, Rick, what's your fee for working with a buyer? And like a fool, I said, well, whatever's offered on the cooperative line in the MLS listing. And you said, what if it's $1? And I said, well, does it work that way here? And you said, it will. He said, what is your fee? And I said, well, I guess it could be this. And you said, put it in that agreement and get the buyer to sign off on hiring you and paying you. So that worked pretty well. So now I've got this buyer agreement system in my business. I've now got some outside sales agents, and I've trained all of them to do the same thing, Craig, back in the day. This is by 2004. I'm fully engrossed in your system, and we're kicking ass and taking names. You came to me one day and you said, have you ever thought about being the same as other professionals in your market of Calgary? And I said, well, I try to be. He said, are you charging an upfront buyer retainer? And I said, what in the hell is that all about? And you said, well, why don't you say to a buyer when you sit down with them, to get started tonight, sign our agreement, agree to our commission, and give us a check for $197. I said, but Craig, we would never charge a buyer up front. And you said, why? So there we are. Between 2000 and 2004, math on that, Craig, is 20 years ago, you were teaching your members how to negotiate the commission that every agent in the US has to do now in 2024. So for your members who've been with you for a while, this is old hat. This is normal business when we sit down with a buyer. And believe me, in a buyer presentation, I can value stack 50 reasons, well, maybe not 50, but a lot of reasons why a buyer should not worry about anybody else, but hire me on the spot. In that 1 hour that I spend with a buyer now, I get everything I need agreed to and signed off on the agreement, including my fee. And for our American friends who are watching this today, if you're not doing that now, you're in big trouble in the US. And we'll teach you how to do it and be really good at it for sure. Sorry to interrupt you there, Craig, but
No, you did.
bears
That's
mentioning
exactly where I wanted to go anyway. The point that you just made is in Craig Proctor Nation, in Craig Proctor world, nothing changed. On August 17th, the United States, when the buyer rules changed, this is how all Craig Proctor members were doing their business anyway. We were
Right.
not showing buyers any homes until we first met with them and signed a buyer agency agreement. And we certainly were not accepting whatever fee that the homeowner or the listing agent was offering us, because what if you don't like that fee, right?
or
So
or or like now, what if it's zero?
yes. So we were teaching our members how to negotiate the fee they wanted right up front in that buyer agency agreement. Now, that's exactly what we do when we meet with the seller. You try to, negotiate the highest fee that you possibly can. Sometimes the seller won't pay it. You've got to negotiate a bit, or you could decide to walk away from that listing, right? You could decide that if you're not if the commission that you're looking for is not going to be acceptable to the seller, you would walk away. It was very difficult when you're working with a buyer and you've been showing them houses for months. They say, "Hey, Rick, I want to buy that house," and they're paying 1%. Now you would have to do that. You'd have to accept the 1%. What are you going to do about it? However, if your buyer contract is for 4%, now I know a lot of you are like, well, we're not allowed to fix our fee. Look, I'm your coach. My job is to show you how to get the highest fee. Why don't you do 5%? Well, because I don't believe I can do it, or I don't know how I can do it. Of course, if you could make more money in real estate, if you believed it and you knew how to do it, you'd be doing it. I'm just saying we're teaching our members how to negotiate a 3 or 4% fee when they're working with the buyer, and they're getting that fee. Now, you're going to wonder, well, how do we get the buyer to pay for it? Well, oftentimes, that fee to the buyer is paid through the proceeds of sale. Okay. Now you might say, well, why would the seller want to pay that? Because they want to get their home sold. Now, sometimes the seller won't pay it, or the seller will pay a portion of it, and the buyer will be responsible for the difference. But in many cases, we're able to get the seller to pay for it. But these are all systems, right? Like, how do I negotiate my fee? How do I do a proper buyer presentation, a seller presentation? When all that works, here's what happens. So we got the lead generation system, the conversion system, and the presentation system. If this actually works, you've got a lot of clients. So you got a lot of homes listed, you got a lot of buyers under contract. Now your business is starting to experience growing pains. So let's talk about what happens next. Well, what happens next is you're working all the time, right? Because there's only you. And in the beginning, that might be okay because you're like, hey, I've never made this much money in my whole life. I'm willing to, suck it up, whatever, work 6 or 7 days a week. But understand you might be able to do the sprint, but you can't do the marathon. So we're going to teach you next how to implement systems, technology, and hire your first person, your key person that will take a lot of the work away from you, not all of the work. And once you hire this first key administrative person, you'll be able to sell more houses and you'll be able to work a little bit less. But as your business continues to grow, you're going to need another licensed person. You may say, well, I don't really want a licensed person right now. I understand that. You're reluctant to do something that you don't know how to do. But this is the pathway to success. I guess what I'm saying is if you really, really want to be one of the top agents in your city, it means that a lot of the work that needs to be done, and there would be a lot of work that needed to be done, but it wouldn't be done by you. How many of you would be okay with this thought of how many homes could I sell if it didn't depend on me? It would be limitless, right? This is how I was able to sell 600 homes a year. Rick knows the story. I slowly built up my team, 100 homes a year, 200 homes a year. Within 3 years of having my real estate license, I was named the #1 RE/MAX agent, not in the country, in the world. Think about that. Within 36 months of having my license, I was the top RE/MAX agent in the world, which of course helped me gather a lot of attention from other agents. And we really built the coaching business up based on my real track record. But the fact that I can do this means that any of you can do this. And this is what Rick has noticed through his own experience in being with me for all these years, is we create millionaires. We create more millionaires as a percentage than any other coach or trainer or guru out there. We take people with, low success or medium success in real estate, or maybe no success in real estate. Rick was struggling when he met me, and we teach you how to build this step by step, step by step. Okay, so for me, I get to a point where now I'm married, I've got 3 kids, I can't work 7 days a week anymore. And so the time became more important than the money. I thought I had to pick. See, I'm raised like many of us are raised, like if you want to work hard, it means you got to, if you want to make more money, you got to work harder. So I got no more to give. I'm already working 7 days a week. What I didn't understand was the concept of leverage. I didn't understand that I could have my cake and eat it too. That actually by leveraging myself, I could continue to have my income go up while dialing back the number of hours worked. So by 2010, I had moved my family to Florida. Now, what about your real estate business, Craig? Well, it's still going. Now, I say business. I want everyone to understand I was never a broker owner. I was just a RE/MAX agent working at the RE/MAX office just north of Toronto. And here we are, as Rick mentioned, cranking out 500 or 600 homes every single year. But I'm not even in the country. I'm living down in Florida. I bought a house on an island. I got a boat. My kids are going to school down there. And I'm running this business up in Toronto from my place in Florida. Like back then before Zoom calls, just phone calls into the office, but it pretty much ran on its own. Now, this idea of having a high income business that works pretty much without you is intriguing, right? Like, what about this idea of how many homes could you sell if it didn't depend on you? I was in love with that idea. And that's the idea that I chased. And so my income kept going up, but I wasn't even in the city. That just shows you I really had a true business because it didn't depend on me. Most of you watching this right now, if you're really honest, you don't have a business, you've got a job. Now, you think you have a business because you have business cards, you have for sale signs or sold signs on the front yard of people's homes. And if people said, what do you do for a living? You'd say, I'm in the real estate business. But the truth is, most real estate agents don't have a business. They have a job, and it's a bad job because they can't go on vacation. When they go on vacation, Rick, all that means is they bring their laptop to a different location, right?
Yeah.
They're on their laptop in the hotel down in Cancun instead of, in Calgary. So it's a workcation. It's just, it's just working from a different location. We're talking about building a real business that provides you the income, right? And the freedom. Like if we don't have the money and the time, we're not going to get the freedom. So that's what the Craig Proctor system is all about. And for those of you that are interested, I'd like to invite you to book a call with me. Okay, we'll type into the comments below, but if you go to proctorcall.com, okay, my name, proctorcall.com, no space, just proctorcall.com. We'll have Faith type that into the comments below. That's a clickable link, and it goes to my Acuity Day Timer. And I invite you, free of charge and no obligation, no sales pitch. If you liked this and you'd like to know how I could help you have more success in your real estate business, why not book a free one-on-one breakthrough call? We can have a discussion about where you are in your business right now and what are your goals? What are your aspirations? So for example, if you sell 20 homes a year and you want to go to 40 or you want to go to 60, what would be the best way to do that? I'm assuming if you're doing 20 transactions now and your goal, say 40, that if you knew how to do 40, you'd be doing it right now. You would probably tell me why you're stuck at 20 and all the obstacles to get to 40. Because again, if you knew how to do 40 or 50 or 60, but you're only doing 20, there's something holding you back. So what is that and how can we go around that? I also have a free report that I want to offer everyone. That's just a giveaway today. No one's going to call you, phone you. We don't have to do that because we use reverse prospecting, right? We use attraction. I'm going to have Faith just pull this up on the screen. And if you want this, there'll be a link in the comments below. and I'll have Faith share it with you. It's the top reasons why real estate agents lose listings. It's a free report that I put together. We're listing the top 9 reasons why you might lose a listing and how to correct that. So this is just a gift that we're giving you just to show you some of the way that we coach and we train and give you a feel for the kind of advice and information that we share with agents. So you can, there'll be a link in the comments below, and you can just click on the link and follow the steps, add your contact information, and you'll get our free report on the top 9 reasons that agents lose listings and how to avoid losing the listing. Rick, if people watching this want to contact you, maybe they just want to have a conversation about your history with us or anything that we've talked about today, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Well, the quickest route to me is probably an email, rick@rickbrash.com. And I'm sure people have questions. Craig, you said this before. One of the biggest things we deal with in modern society is skepticism. So it's easy for a couple of guys to go on Facebook and tell all these stories. It's all real. Everything we're talking about today is really what's happened in Craig's life and in my life. And together we've done some pretty cool things together to help agents. So yeah, by all means, reach out. I don't ever have a problem helping somebody make their real estate business better, easier, and more profitable anytime. rick@rickbrash.com.
So rick@rickbrash.com. Now, for some of you real keeners, or you're already a Craig Proctor System member, we do have a multi-day Craig Proctor conference coming up. It's called our Future Focus Conference in Anaheim, California. So if you're available, Anaheim, California, November 11th or 12th, you should make yourself available. You should go wherever in the world you need to be to learn what you need to grow your business and have a better career in real estate. So if you'd like more information on our conference, attending our conference in Anaheim, California, or you want to email me for whatever reason, I'll give you my email address. It's easy. It's craig@craigproctor.com. So you can email me, craig@craigproctor.com. If you want to book the free breakthrough call, you're going to click on the link in the comments below that say proctorcall.com. You just click there, you go to my Acuity Day Timer, and we'd love to see you on the other side. Okay, we'd love to see you go through the process of learning more about what we do. I also have a private Facebook group. If you're interested in getting an invitation to my private Facebook group, in the comments below, just write in private group. Okay, just say a private group, and we'll send you out a link and give you information on how you can become a member of my private Facebook group. So I think that's all we have for you today. Final thoughts from Rick Brash before we wrap it up.
Well, first of all, Craig, thanks for having me on board. Always a thrill to spend time with you. And I think the reality is, as we move through time here, it's not going to get easier. We're seeing, if we look across most metro markets now across Canada and the US, we're feeling a slowdown. It's interesting that in Canada, we had a 50-point interest rate drop here in the last 60 days, and it's done nothing to help markets. In fact, markets have slowed even more since the interest rate drop. Now, why is that? Well, you taught us years ago that one of the worst things a buyer can do is wait. And most of us have said, well, I've talked to buyers, we've had these conversations. Buyers want to wait for rates to go down so their payments go down. Well, that 2-year waiting period is what? It's called appreciation in house value. So any reduction in interest rates that we've seen lately been completely negated by the fact that house prices continue to rise. Knowing that kind of stuff, knowing how to prepare for that moving forward, and knowing how to deal with that in a buyer interview, for example, are some of the key things we teach our members and students to do. We teach our members cutting edge things. We're not asking our members to go and guinea pig something or try this or try that. Nope. We're going to share with you things that are proven, things that have a track record, things that will actually make a difference in your business. And I didn't mention it earlier, but that's one of the things I've always appreciated about being part of this organization is when you got to know me, Craig, at 10 o'clock, I'd see your name on my call display, and you'd say, hey, we've got this great new idea, Rick. Do you think you can give it a shot and give us some feedback? That's different. I was part of the coaching team then. That's different than me taking a brand new member and saying, try this, try this, try this, try this, report back to me with data. That's not the way you work. You bring proven methods, proven systems, and proven ideas. Everything we share with our membership has a track record that's easily understood. So if you would like to be in a situation like that, if you'd like to work with a set of proven systems, then today you're in the right place. Today you're talking to the right guy. Today you're listening to the right message, because that's what happens here in Anaheim. And I can say this, Craig, because I've been to 120 of these events with you over the years. We're only going to talk about things that absolutely work. We're going to have some great people on stage presenting and showing you things that absolutely work that you could do. You could easily execute what they're doing in your business and begin to get the same type of results. So if the idea of spending a couple of days with Craig and his coaching team and these top producers from all over North America is appealing, then do what you got to do to get there. And it'll make a huge difference in your business, and it will probably change your life for the better. It did for me. It absolutely did for me.
Rick, one of the things that you and I have talked a lot about over the years is the hardest thing we do is to try to get our members just to copy. Just to copy what's been proven to work for the millionaire agents in the Craig Proctor system. So here's the good news. How many of you are good copiers? You don't have to have a creative bone in your body. In fact, we don't want you to change anything at all other than plug in your picture and your contact information. Everything has been thoroughly tested by thousands and thousands of agents over the years. It's just plug and play. You come to the Anaheim conference, you sit back, and you will have millionaire producer after millionaire producer go on stage and show you exactly what they do. And we give it to you on a silver platter, and all you have to do is implement it. So we show you what works the best. We help you implement it. We coach you every single day to make sure that you're on track and it's working and answering all your questions. How many real estate agents would be successful if they're plugged into a no-fail system where everything has been thought out, everything is laid out for you? We answer all your questions, we keep you accountable. I have never seen in all my years of doing this, because people ask me, well, what percentage of Craig Proctor members succeed? Rick, our answer would be the following. We have never seen anyone fail at this that's actually showed up and implemented the system. It just doesn't happen. Now, if you don't show up and you don't implement anything, obviously, like even listening to us today is not going to make you any money unless you take action on this. So the proper action would be one of two things. You book a private breakthrough call with me. You go to proctorcall.com, or better yet, you register yourself for Anaheim. You can, my website, by the way, is craigproctor.com. But if you're really into this or just want some more information, just shoot me an email, craig@craigproctor.com. We're going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for watching this. Rick, special thanks to you, not only for doing this today, but everything you've done over the many years that we've been working together, not just for me, but the thousands of agents that you've helped. And we look forward to having you at the Anaheim conference and sharing all your wisdom and being so helpful. So everyone for watching, thank you so much for watching our edition of the Craig Proctor Real Estate Show. You can, again, email me at any time at craig@craigproctor.com. And if you want the free report, the link is below. We'll have all of our contact information below in the comments as well. So thank you for watching it, and we'll see you guys next time. This is Real Estate Coach Craig.